Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to another video. If you're watching this video, you're probably, considering buying a Miata. And I'm going to go over a few pros and cons of the Miata, things to think about, to see if that Miata would be a good fit for you, where you live, your lifestyle, what you plan to do with it, etc. Blah, blah, blah. So I'm going to go for a little drive. We're going to talk about the Miata and yeah, hopefully I'll help you come to a conclusion of some sort as to, whether you want to pick one up or not. If you notice I'm a little sunburned, I'm just going to go ahead and say it. I had a motorcycle safety course over the last couple days, so many hours out in the sun. First time I've been sunburned in a little while. If you guys want me to do a little recap video on that, I don't know, maybe it changes to a bit of a motorcycle channel, if you will. Go ahead, let me know down in the comments, and I'll see what I can do. So a couple things I appreciate about the Miata. The 1.6 liter 4-cylinder engine is one of them. My Miata in particular is a 1990, so it came with the 1.6. There's a debate of the 1.6 versus the 1.8. On the forums, they kind of say the 1.8 feels like more like a car. The 1.6 feels more like a rev-happy Miata. This Miata redlines at like 6,500. You can see right there. But it actually hits rev limiter at 75, and it loves revving up to 75. I'll take it out and drive it fairly spiritedly, and I'll hit rev limiter every now and then, and it just takes it. It loves it. It has decent power from like 3,000-ish RPMs, pretty much all the way to redline. It pulls really well, actually. I can't really speak on the 1.8. I haven't owned one, but like I said, from what I've been reading, the 1.6 seems to be the true Miata experience. The Miata is a pretty good car. You can pick them up for fairly cheap still. Prices have been going up, but they're still pretty affordable for a fun little roadster that you can get on Craigslist after you're saving up a few dollars. The aftermarket support for NA Miatas is huge. They made a ton of them. Flying Miata is a big aftermarket parts. I don't know if they manufacture it or if they're just a kind of like a distributor of parts, but they're a pretty big name in the industry. You can turbo these engines fairly simply. There's a ton of kits out there. There's a ton of kits for swapping in a lot of different motors. K-Series Honda motors, J-Series Honda motors, I think they're Eco-Tech motors. You can, of course, swap from a 1.6 to a 1.8 or a 1.8 to a 1.6. There's just, LS swaps, Ford 5-liter like Mustang swaps. The Miata is kind of like the 240 in the sense that you can swap almost anything into it, except maybe like a JZ or some other long straight 6 engine. The engine bay is not too terribly long on these guys. So yeah, I mean, it's a cheap, fun little roadster car to get into. The engine, the 1.6 is incredibly basic, super easy to maintain, diagnose, repair, all that fun stuff. It'll help you learn a lot. So with all those upsides, there has to be downsides, otherwise everyone would own a Miata. The downsides, of course, is that it's a very small car. In my garage, it almost looks like a go-kart with how much room you have all the way around it. And like any sort of regular car, like a Civic, a 240, an Accord, Camry, they're all, fairly tight in the garage. So it is a small car. If you're kind of a bigger person, taller person, you may not fit as well as you might like. I'm 6'4", and the steering wheel is not adjustable, so my knees are actually up against the steering wheel. So you can see a little bit there. So yeah, kind of tight, but it's not too terrible. I wouldn't want to do any long road trips in this thing, but as a daily driver, it could get by. Another thing to note is these 1.6 Miatas all came with R12 in their refrigerant systems. That's another thing to take into consideration. If you like your AC and you're thinking about getting a 1.6, chances are the AC just doesn't work anymore. I think R12 was discontinued in vehicles, and I think 94 or 95 is when they switched over to R134. So if you like having an AC system that can still be fairly easily recharged and repaired, you might want to go with a 1.8. But there are retro refit kits for 1.6 engines that use it basically just converts it to R134. It won't be the greatest, but it'll work. And also, it's not technically illegal to use R12 if you have a license, I believe. So, you know, there is R12 out there to purchase to recharge your old AC system if it comes to that. The other thing is these Miatas, these NAs, are just getting kind of old. I think they stopped making them in like the late 90s, and that's when the NB took over. And there's a whole debate on the newer the Miata, the less Miata-like it is, and the more car-like it is, which makes sense. You know, technology advances. People probably just have nostalgic feelings for the old Miatas, and with these newer like crash safety standards, these Miatas are just getting bigger and heavier, and with more weight, they need more power, but at the same time they have to have more emissions equipment, so they're not as peppy and rev happy as the old 1.6s. And if that's what you like, that's cool. It's just something to consider. Some people like the old school pop-up headlight NA Miatas with good old basic 90s Japanese technology. Another thing to consider is if you like convertible cars at all. That's you know, are you the kind of person that rolls the windows up and cranks up the AC on a 80-ish degree day, or do you like to roll the windows down and enjoy the breeze? With I mean, the Miata, the main point of the Miata is that it's a convertible, and you know, people say the Miata stands for make it a topless afternoon. So the whole Miata community loves riding around with their top down and, you know, feeling the sun beating down directly on them. I'm not too much of a convertible guy. I actually prefer the windows up with the AC. But if that's you and you still want a Miata, they do make hard tops for these vehicles, and it does add a few pounds. You know, a hard top does weigh more than a, you know, leather, vinyl, plastic, whatever these convertible tops are made of. The main heavy part of these convertible tops is basically just the metal frame and maybe the glass. I think some Miatas have like a clear vinyl rear window. This Miata in particular actually has glass on it. The other thing is just being so small, it kind of sort of feels like you're on a motorcycle in a way, especially with the top down, and you almost have, well, you basically do have unobstructed view all the way around you if you turn your head. There's no like B and C pillars in the back blocking your view, and it is kind of unnerving at first, like driving by semi-trucks. That was kind of weird, and it's just a whole lot noisier. I never realized how noisy the highway was until I had the top down. If you're familiar with motorcycles, then I'm sure it's nothing new to you, but it's just something I noticed with this Miata, my first convertible. Something to think about. So you should also take into consideration where you live and what you intend on doing with your Miata. If it's going to be a daily driver and you live in, I don't know, Michigan or like upstate New York, maybe you might want to get a different sort of vehicle, especially around the winter months. Maybe keep the Miata as a summer only or good weather only vehicle, because this is a small car, rear wheel drive, open differential on a majority of the models. I believe some came with some sort of limited slip torsion, limited slip, I believe. but this is definitely not a vehicle you want to be driving in the dead of winter with like a foot of snow on the ground. Now, if you live in Florida or like Arizona, yeah, go ahead. You never see snow, you never see anything more than just rain, and that would be perfectly fine. The other thing you want to take into consideration is what you want to use it for. If you want to use it as like a fun, good weather vehicle that you can ride around with the top down, maybe take it to the track every now and then, or just a commuter car. If you have any sort of family with kids, I would not suggest it. There's no back seats in this thing at all, two-seater only, but I'm sure you've done your research and you know that already. Yeah, whatever you gotta take your family's needs into consideration with this Miata. So there you go, a few things to take into consideration if you're looking at buying a Miata. If you're okay with it being an older vehicle, if you're okay with it being kind of cramped, if you're okay with it using R12 and not being the fastest vehicle on the planet, I would definitely suggest getting one. If you want to get into like the kind of sporty roadster, just fun kind of car to drive. I mean, this car is actually really fun to drive. It corners really well, revs really, it's really peppy with the revs. And I mean, if it wasn't too small for me, I would definitely keep this car. But because I'm 6'4", it's a little too cramped for me. I'd say if I was 6 foot or under, this would be a pretty good car actually. But anyways, I've been rambling on long enough. I hope I've given you a few pointers one way or the other for the Miata. Like I said, I have a 1990 1.6. I don't have any experience with the 1.8s or the NBs or NCs. So do your research, but the basic overview of small convertible roadster is kind of the same across all generations of Miata. So anyways, thanks for watching. Hope this helped you in your decision. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Like I said, I can make a little recap video of that motorcycle safety training course that I took and got all this sunburn from. And yeah, give this video a like, share it to your friends, and as always, thanks for watching.